Hi everybody, my name's Chris and I'm here today to do a short review of my super zoom lens, the Tamron 18-270mm VC. I've got it here mounted on a Canon 500D, my 60D as usual is filming me. As you can see, compared to the 500D, it's actually a pretty big lens, and what you can't see is that it's also quite weighty. Now this lens is really popular at the moment for a few reasons. Firstly, it currently holds the record for longest focal range in any super zoom lens. 18-270mm is just huge. Also, it's quite cheaply priced and it has a very good vibration control system, image stabilization. So it's really popular at the moment, but I didn't really see many reviews of it on YouTube, so I thought I'd contribute a little bit. Now, super zoom lenses are really popular because they enable you to go on a holiday or just keep a lens on your camera all the time and get nice wide angle shots, 18mm, and very nice super telephoto shots, 270mm, so you don't have to keep changing lenses. However, the problem with super zoom lenses like this is that they have a lot of optical disadvantages, and this lens sadly is no exception. However, I think it's a great choice if you really do want a super zoom lens. So, let's take a look at it. Here's an example of the zoom range from good wide angle to extreme telephoto. This zoom range is just amazing, especially as Canon's super zoom lens can only reach 200mm, although in reality the difference between 200mm and 270 is not as large as you might think. The lens also offers excellent image stabilization, which Tamron has named vibration compensation. Even at full zoom, this can hold your image still very easily. If you are into filmmaking, you might find the image stabilization kind of jerky. It seems it's more designed to help with stills photography than video work, but then, what else would you expect? You can see from this video footage how panning with the vibration compensation looks. This lens produces quite nice colour and fair contrast to give you very natural looking images which are pleasant to view. For a super zoom, it performs very well optically. From about 28 to 70mm, this lens is sharp, and if you close the aperture a little, it has almost no chromatic aberration, those weird colours on contrasting edges. Generally, in independent optical tests, this lens tests as well or marginally better than the offerings from Canon or Sigma. Another neat feature is this lens's macro capabilities. When fully zoomed in, it can achieve a maximum magnification of 0.37 times. That means you can get really close to your subjects, which is fun and obviously very useful. It also produces a reasonably nice background blur or bokeh, as you can see here. However, like any super zoom, this lens has considerable weak points optically. To start with, its extreme focal lengths. At 18mm, as you can see, there are some big issues, especially with the aperture wide open. The corners are dark as anything, and there's some serious barrel distortion. All the lines are bending all over the place. I should say at this point that this is actually typical for a super zoom lens. It's still a big problem though, especially if you're shooting on video. However, zoom into 23 and then 27mm and the problems go away. There are more problems though when you get to 200mm and beyond. The picture becomes very soft and there's a lot of chromatic aberration, as you can see here. At this range, the lens's performance is very unimpressive. Another problem with this lens, which is a problem you get with all super zoom lenses, is that it's really quite slow. It doesn't let in a lot of light. Now, image stabilization helps with that. The excellent VC system does help, but only if you're doing stills photography and your subject isn't moving. If the subject's moving, you'll get a lot of blurriness, and also if you're filmmaking, image stabilization doesn't get more light into the lens, which is what you need because your frame rate has got to be like 60 frames a second. Now, the lens starts at f3.5 at 18mm wide angle, and that's neither slow nor fast really. However, when you zoom all the way into 270mm, the aperture goes all the way down to f6.3, which is terribly slow really. In fact, in this day and age, you shouldn't really be getting f6.3 on any lens, and that kind of small aperture can even cause problems autofocusing on certain camera bodies. Another effect of the slow aperture is that you're not going to get a narrow depth of field. Here's a shot taken with my f1.4 lens, and here's the equivalent shot with a Tamron. Not quite the same thing. However, again, this is a normal issue for a super zoom lens, and this is the reason I generally use a fast standard zoom lens instead. Take a look at my review of the Canon 17-55mm f2.8 IS lens. A lens like that, with a smaller focal range, will also offer better picture quality. My biggest beef with this Tamron lens is the focusing. The autofocus is a little slow and noisy, as you can see here. And for comparison, here's my Canon 17-55 USM lens. Now focusing manually is tricky. The focus ring is sticky, undamped, and only rotates a short way. It's hard to focus this baby. The zoom ring is smoother than I thought it would be, although it's not perfect, but it does get better once it's been used and it's broken in a little. It's a bit tricky to use this as a filmmaking lens, to be honest. The Canon 18-270mm would be better. It's better built when it comes to the zoom and focus rings, so it might be more useful for filmmaking. However, the Canon Super Zoom is also known for some pretty ugly chromatic aberration, which this Tamron lens definitely doesn't have. Basically, for a super zoom lens, this is great, and it's also excellent value for money. It has really good picture quality in the middle of the zoom range, 35 to 70mm, so it's really good for people who like their stills photography. However, it's really cheaply made, so it's not as useful for filmmaking as the Canon 18-200mm lens, which is just easier to handle in that kind of situation. Now when it comes to getting a super zoom lens, it's really up to you. It's really convenient to have 18-200mm all-in-one lens. However, if you're really into your picture quality, if you really want fantastic, amazing, sharp pictures, then it's always much better to go for separate lenses and learn how to change them. Lenses with smaller zoom ranges will always have much better picture quality, especially fixed length lenses, and they will also allow you to have more light coming in, a wider aperture. So super zoom lenses aren't that perfect, in my opinion anyway. Lots of people are just really happy with their super zoom lenses, and that's great. If you really want a super zoom lens, and you're more into stills photography than filmmaking, then this is probably your best choice, in my opinion. It's good.